Our nuclear revenge. First of two stories. Porno divorce. So this little story begins with me and my wife happily married. We had two wonderful daughters, 13 and 10, and a pretty healthy relationship. Or so I thought. Anyways, at some point things started to appear off. She got very clingy to her phone all of a sudden, made sure to delete the saved password feature on our common PC, stated having phone calls that suddenly ended when I came into the house room. You can probably guess what it was. Now having 15 years of marriage behind us, I was hoping it wasn't what it obviously seemed to be. So one day when she told me she was going to spend some time with the girls, I decided to follow her. Sure enough, I find her driving to a hotel to meet with, let's just call him Penis. To say it was a gut punch was an understatement. I literally cried for an hour straight. After I was done with my self-wallowing phase, I decided the best course was getting even. I thought of several scenarios that may or may not have involved me beating Penis into a bloody pulp. Eventually I decided to do things more civilly and more importantly legally, but only just. So the first part of the plan was gathering evidence. I could have just gotten a pie, but I had something better in mind. So one day when my wife was at her job and the kids at school, I installed some small secret cameras and microphones I had bought. Due to the setup of our bedroom, I even managed to get one perfectly overlooking the bed. I didn't however use them while I was at home. So a couple of days pass, when I propose to my wife that the second to next weekend I should take the girls on a trip to land site that I will not reveal, and stay a night too. At this point I should also mention that due to her job being pretty demanding and frequently exhausting her, and just due to our various passions and talents, I was always the main caregiver. I more often than not was the one cooking. I took a far more active role in raising the girls and showed them a lot more patience and attention. I didn't spoil them or anything like that. So me going alone with the girls on a trip wasn't that weird. This part will also be very important later. So 2 weeks pass, in which time I get my affairs in order and contact a lawyer to write up a separation agreement that would involve me keeping residence and custody. I go on the trip, try to not give anything away to the girls and wait and see if Penis and my wife fall into the trap. When I returned I checked the recordings of the weekend, and sure enough it's a 36 hours fuckfest. When they weren't fucking, the dialogue was something even better. I found out that Penis had a wife, though more on her later. But even worse, they also talked about me. And besides the obvious sexual character assassination that I expected about how small my dick was, how I didn't satisfy her, etc, there was some really hurtful stuff, like her telling Penis some of my deepest secrets and shameful stories that I had only told her about, just so they could have a laugh. So at this point I didn't have any doubts on what to do. The next day when the kids left, but before my wife left, I confronted her with the video and told her that either she signs the separation agreement and leaves the house, or the girls are going to receive an in-depth explanation of all the orifices mommy got fucked in. I wasn't gonna do that, just to be clear. I love my daughters too much, but I put the threat there and she was too emotional to realize my bluff. She went through all the stages, denying everything, trying to bargain, threatening me, and getting angry. I let it go through all that stuff. Eventually she signed the paper and she departed that very evening after she told her goodbyes to the girls. I didn't show or tell the girls anything graphic. I was always very honest with them, which is another reason why I was always the favorite parent, so I just said that mommy had been unfaithful. The younger took some time figuring it out, but that was made up by my older getting mightily upset. She had just gotten her first boyfriend, as I'm not sure the term really applies at that age, but she knew enough of the world to get pissed off big time. This would be important at a would-be custody battle, as though she did for the moment agree to give over custody. I feared, and I was right to fear, that she would try and fight me for the kids. What I didn't expect was for her to use her visitation rights to talk shit about me. Basically she started telling my younger about how it was all my fault for not forgiving her. Her lawyer even started demanding she receive custody. There was no way for her to receive money or the house as she was caught cheating, and in my state, that means quite a lot in divorce proceedings. So I finally activated my nuclear revenge plan. Enter trip to South Carolina. Why South Carolina? Simple. Fort Sumter. I really wanted my daughters to see it. I definitely did not go there because it is one of the last places where revenge porn isn't illegal and where I could upload my wife and penis's escapades with no worries on Pornhub and other such sites, as you cannot be prosecuted for crimes that weren't illegal when and where they were committed. I sent the links to my wife's employer, her clients, and everybody in her line of work just to be sure, to Penis's wife and to his firm. Penis soon got a divorce. I feel sorry for his wife as she was an innocent victim in all of this, but I think it's better that she found out. As for my wife, this was the end of any chance to get custody. She soon got fired from her job of 8 years. And while the revenge porn part was a real dick move that did count in court, it being done in South Carolina, it wasn't illegal or prosecutable, so it could only be used as a minus about my personality. But with my wife unemployed and practically being blacklisted in her profession due to being on Pornhub, as well as the girls, or to put it better, my younger being told what to do by my older, stating they wanted to stay with me, there was no question on who would get the custody. Yes, due to her being unemployed, I got no alimony, but honestly I make enough money to sustain both me and the girls, so I don't care, and I'm good enough at caring for them and they are old enough to allow me to have a full-time job. Several months later, my wife is still unemployed, though I do not know if it's from the porn or from the virus. The girls are growing up just fine, and don't seem to mind not seeing their bitch mother. The last time I communicated with my ex-wife was on Facebook, where she told me how I ruined her life and her relation to her daughters, but honestly I think she earned it. TL. Doctor, I realized my wife was cheating, so I got a sex tape of her and her lover, got her to agree on a completely one-sided separation, and when she tried to badmouth me and get custody, I made her into a temporary porn star, thus securing the custody and getting her fired and blacklisted in her field of work. Before we get to the second story, please hit the red subscribe button below if you enjoy this content. Thanks. Asked to see nudes of my girlfriend? Enjoy your court-martial. Originally posted to our pro revenge but was told it applied here as well. You be the judge. Strap in, this is a little bit of a long one. TL. DR at the bottom. On mobile, sorry. So a little background to start. I was active duty for 6 years in the Air Force, stationed at a base in the Northeast. Throughout my first 3 years I had a supervisor who was awesome. We actually became really good friends and still are to this day. Unfortunately, the way it goes in the military, he got moved to a new base, meaning I needed a new supervisor. Tech SGT dipshit, TSD, had arrived to my unit about a year before my supervisor had to leave. Right off the bat I could tell TSD and I were not going to click. He was the type that was loud and obnoxious to get attention and to be funny. He just wasn't a person I wanted to be around, so I made it a point to remove myself whenever he came into the room. It was obvious, but whatever, I didn't care. So when my supervisor left, of course, what do ya know? TSD became my new one. I had no say in it, unfortunately, but I still didn't need to like him. Just had to go over my work performance and stuff like that with him ever so often, but besides that, I stayed away. But by no means were me and this guy friends. Clearly, he didn't take the hint. Okay, so it's been a few months since he's been my supervisor. I kept to my routine of avoiding him and whatnot, not caring if it was obvious or not. One day before our morning meeting, about 0730 every morning just to go over workload, roll call, etc., I'm sitting there waiting for everyone to show up. I'm sitting at a table by myself on my phone when he comes over and sits next to me. Obviously I'm automatically annoyed, lol. I put my phone down on the table and a moment later my GF texts me, lighting up my screen, which is a background of me and her from my day where we are all dressed up. She's wearing a shirt revealing some cleavage but not like inappropriate. He takes it upon himself to pick my phone up and ask who that is. I tell him it's my GF and he proceeds to rub the screen where her tits are and say, "These are pretty nice, you got any more pictures of these?" I'm baffled. Couldn't believe what he just said to me. This creep, who I never had a meaningful personal convo with, just asked to see nudes of my GF. I grab my phone back and say, "Are you fucking serious?" and he gets all red. I get up and move and try to calm down because at that point I wanted to knock him out. For reference, he's a mid to late 30s guy with a teenage daughter, and I was 22 at the time. Just creepy. I was sick of this dude and thought this was a perfect opportunity to get rid of him as my supervisor to avoid any contact whatsoever. Little did I know, I was going to get that wish plus some. I take it up the chain to my captain and she's clearly upset. She tells me this was his last straw. Apparently, TSD was already talked to about his inappropriate behavior. But above all else, months prior to asking me to see news of my GF, we had a work BBQ. This was on base, during duty hours, with everyone and their families there. TSD decides to get hammered and come over to our table of me and my work buddies and whip his dick out. He tells the joke, "Can someone tell me what time it is?" as his dick is on his wrist. It was funny when Nick Swartzen told the joke but not this creep. Everyone was like, WTF. There were people's kids right behind him when he did it. Hopefully you're starting to see what kind of guy he is. Regrettably, nobody ever reported him for it because he was a tech SGT and we didn't want to get in trouble for reporting him. So when my captain said it was the last straw, she took it up her chain, which launched a whole investigation. Myself and co-workers had to go in and give statements to the investigators about everything we had on this dude. They wanted to know everything. So everyone basically told their own stories of how creepy and inappropriate TSD was. They of course found out about the barbecue, which was just a shit show. Fast forward a few months and the court-martial comes. Me and a few others, including my old supervisor and other friend, had to fly back from Korea and Arizona, had to testify at the court-martial. It was a crazy experience, but this dude was a pose and I didn't feel bad. TSD ends up getting kicked out of the Air Force and lost pretty much everything. Sometimes I think if I went too far, he only asked to see my GF tits and pretended to rub them, lol, fucking pervert. I only wanted to get rid of him as my supervisor, but I did one better. Got him away from me completely. Bye bye, asshole. TLDR, Air Force supervisor was a pose and creepy as hell. Pretended to rub my GF's tits on my phone and asked for more pics of her boobies. I told my captain, which was the final straw with him, and launched an investigation against him. He also likes to take his pee-pee out in public. Court-martial against him equals bye bye.